Good morning, and welcome to day 38 of F260 at First Baptist Meridian. Today's reading comes from Exodus chapters 26 and 27, but we're also going to discuss 25 since we left it out yesterday. Now, importantly, in the previous chapters from earlier days, Moses has been up on the mountain receiving the initial iteration of the law from God. This is how Israel is going to be the kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Again, they know how to live like slaves in Egypt. God has something better for them to be, but that involves a different way of doing than they're accustomed to. So in chapter 24, the nation as a whole ratifies this covenant with God. Here's who we commit to being. Here's what we commit to doing. And this is something, we saw covenant all the way back in Genesis, beginning with the Noah story and really taking shape with the story of Abraham. But in the past, it's primarily been a ratification or a passing it on to individuals. In Exodus 24, it takes on a new stage in being applied to the nation as a whole. And that's what makes Exodus 25 following so significant. After Israel ratifies this covenant with God, God gives the instructions to Moses on the building of the tabernacle because God says, He says, they are to make a sanctuary for me so that I may dwell, shakan in Hebrew, among them. You must make it according to all that I show you, the pattern of the tabernacle, as well as the pattern of all its furnishings. So as you read Exodus 25, 26, 27, and beyond, one of the things with which you are struck is how much detail the text goes into. For some people, they even find these chapters laborious. They're like a chore because it's so hard to keep up with the details. But you have to realize what's happening. When God took them out of Egypt, saved them from something, as we've said, He also wanted to save them to something. From slaves to a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. But again, all they know how to live like is slaves. So when they got to Mount Sinai, remember what they did. They put markers around the base of the mountain to remind people that they are not holy enough to go up to God. However, once they ratify this covenant with God, Moses gets instructions for the building of the tabernacle. Why? Because God is going to come down and dwell in the midst of them. So think about that imagery. They're not worthy to go up to God, but God is still willing to come down to them. There's a little bit of gospel logic in there that we ultimately see fleshed out in the incarnation of Christ. The Word became flesh and dwelt, literally in Greek, iskinasin, tabernacled among us, and we beheld His glory. So in the Exodus account, God is going to dwell among His people. And I think that's exactly why you have so much detail in these chapters, not only for what the tabernacle is supposed to entail, but again, the things within the tabernacle. That's why you'll have so much detail about how the sacrifices are supposed to be carried out. I compare this to parents or in-laws visiting. My mother-in-law, who watches these videos and whom I love so much, good morning, Gina McNeese. My mother-in-law, when she comes to visit, she notices things that I pay zero attention to on a daily basis. So she's got this habit of wiping seals and counters and just casually looking at her finger to see dust. So when we know that Haley's parents are going to visit with us, we give so much more attention to getting the house ready than we would on a normal daily basis. You see a little bit of this earlier in Exodus at 19 when they washed their clothes in preparation for God coming down on the mountain. By the way, that's the passage from which we get the idea of putting on our Sunday best, taking special measures and preparations to encounter God and to worship God. What does that look like, though, when it's not just a temporary encounter, but a perpetual dwelling of God among His people? That's why there's so much detail on the tabernacle, the things that go in the tabernacle, and the activity that goes on in the tabernacle. Because God is going to dwell with His people. He's going to move with His people. He's going to be with His people as He takes them from what they were to what they will become. As He takes them from the place of slavery to the land of promise. So bear those things in mind as you continue to move through these chapters, and really pay attention to that as we get to the golden calf incident next week. In the meantime, keep reading, reflecting, and responding to God's word, and may He bless you as you do so. I'll see you tomorrow.